It was just a chair in our dorm. Now 3 students are gone. The aroma of aged varnish and dust hung in the dormitory's 4th-floor common room like a ghost that could not be banished. It was a room referred to by the students as the lounge, a room where coffee cups clattered, laptops whirred, and backpacks rested like discarded armor. In the corner, beneath the unforgiving fluorescence, was a single wooden chair, unadorned, ordinary, its black-painted legs moderately scuffed, the cushion faded teal that had long since lost its native color. No one paid it a second notice. It was merely a piece of furniture, a spot to rest weary limbs after a long night of reading. But the chair had a reputation that no one could quite put into words, a whispered rumor that passed from freshman to freshman like a secret handshake. It was said that anyone who sat on it too long would see things that weren't there, hear voices that weren't their own, and most frighteningly, never again exit the room. The tale started, as all such tales begin, with the skeptic. Sophomore psychology major Maya Patel had a habit of writing off-campus legend as mass nervousness. She liked the rush of disproving myths, and the chair, with its shady past, was the ideal target. "It's just a chair," she said to herself, extracting a notebook from her backpack and plopping down on the chair with a sigh of victory. She rested her elbow on the armrest, leaned forward to rest her chin in her hand, and opened up her laptop to write a paper on cognitive dissonance. The initial minutes were normal. The chair creaked slightly as she adjusted. The fluorescent lights flashed in their relentless buzzing beat, and a far-off siren howled from someplace in the city. But then the room tipped, minutely, as if the floor had been shifted beneath her. Maya blinked, and her eyes focused. For an instant, the walls of the lounge melted away into a corridor of infinite doors, each a black mouth, opening and inviting. A chill draft swept the back of her neck, and she caught a sound, a high, cracked giggle of a child, as if someone cowered behind the curtain. She swiveled her head, but the room remained, chairs and tables unaltered. The only noise, the deep hum of the building's air circulation. Maya's heart pounded. She attempted to rise, but the cushion constricted, as if the very fabric of the chair was enfolding around her legs. She strained, the wood of the backrest digging into her vertebrae, and a burst of sharp pain shot through the base of her back like a shard of ice thrust deep into the bone. She cried out, grasping the seat, and that's when the real horror of the chair was discovered. The wood softened and decayed, bit by slow bit, in Maya's imagination, revealing a dark hole that glowed with a dim red light. Out of that space emerged a breath, soft, honeyed, full of the promise of peace, from her stress, from the weight of finals, from the constant din of the world. "Sit," it whispered, "and relax. Let me bear the load." Maya's rational mind screamed to run, but the chair's grip tightened, and a wave of unnatural calm washed over her. The illusion of the hallway faded, replaced by a memory she didn't own, a childhood bedroom, a cracked mirror, a scar on her left wrist she never remembered getting. The voice cooed, "We're all the same, Maya. You're not alone." Her thoughts became a maelstrom of borrowed memories, each one more tragic than the last. In a sudden, animalistic surge of terror, she slammed her laptop shut and leapt up, the chair screeching as if it were alive. She stumbled toward the exit, heart pounding so hard it seemed to echo in the empty hallway outside. The door opened to a corridor lined with rows of exactly the same chairs, every one exactly like the one she'd left behind. She looked back. The teal chair was gone, and in its place was nothing but a space where a dark stain remained on the floor, a stain that would never dry. The hall's fluorescent lights blinked, and a wind that seemed to come from nowhere urged her forward. Maya ran into the stairwell, shutting the door behind her, and the building let out a sigh, the lights flashing back to stable white. When she was discovered at 2 a.m. by the dormitory's night guard, Mr. Dobbins, shaking and crossing her arms, she could hardly talk. It was a chair," she stammered, her eyes wide with a fear that would not rest. "It showed me things." He walked her to the infirmary, where she was checked for injuries that couldn't be located. The back of her neck had a light bruise, the outline of a curved nail, but the doctor couldn't account for it. Maya never went back to the lounge. She moved to a different campus a month afterward, but the recollection of the chair lingered, causing her to remember whenever she sat on a bench, a stool, or a bus seat. She started keeping a journal, recording every dream, every glimpse of ghostly light, every time a child's laugh rustled from the edges of her mind. She was not the first to document a tale. A decade ago, a graduating senior named Alex McKinnon had written in his engineering thesis that the chair had a resonant frequency similar to the human brain's theta waves, potentially causing hallucinations. He had inexplicably perished in a campus fire that engulfed half the West Wing, and his thesis went unpublished. His own scribblings, discovered on his belongings, detailed an experiment in which he'd placed a pressure sensor on the seat. The readings exhibited spikes that bore no correlation to any physical pressure, as if the chair was sensing something non-tangible, fear perhaps, or a psychic residue. There'd been a freshman, in the year leading up to Maya's experience, named Jenna Ruiz, who vanished after a study session all-nighter in the lounge. Her roommate had heard stifled screams and a sharp metallic clang, but when the resident advisor opened the door, all was well, desks neatly arranged, a half-finished essay on the desk, and the chair still upright, unmoved. Jenna's phone was discovered in the trash, screen broken, and a single message scrolled open: "Don't sit." The message arrived mere minutes before the power went out, and the building was left in darkness. The security camera caught only a hint of movement on the chair's backrest, as if something had passed by unseen. No one knew where the chair came from. It wasn't ever inventoried in the dorm. When university archivist Miss Caldwell rooted through maintenance logs spanning decades, she uncovered the first reference to a black chair in a 1973 renovation report, describing it as a donated item from the Alumni Association, labeled as for student use. The name of the donor was smudged, the signature unreadable, and the accompanying photo was grainy, one of a blurry silhouette of the chair, its legs darker against a lighter background. The university's first dean had retired during that year, and there were rumors that he had been preoccupied with psychic research, a pastime which was never admitted. One rain-gleaming night, following the experience with Maya, a class of students interested, rebellious, and partly encouraged by the weekend celebration decided to explore. They ventured into the lounge equipped with a portable recorder, a flashlight, and one disposable camera, seeking to document any paranormal activity. The chair sat in wait, its teal cushions smudged by the specter of rain that filtered through the broken windows. They sat. One by one, each of them in turn, laughing nervously, challenging the others to remain longer. The recorder picked up low humming that built into white noise, and the camera flash lit up the room, but something was amiss. The flash caught a dim shadow behind each sitter, a presence covered in a torn white sheet, its face empty, its hand out toward the chair. When the flash dissipated, the figure vanished, leaving a ripple in the fabric of existence, as if a stone had been cast into the water. As the final student, a sophomore named Ethan, stepped up onto the chair, the room grew cold. The lights behaved erratically, going out for the span of a heartbeat before flaring back on at a brightness that forced the students to shield their eyes. The back of the chair creaked, a sound akin to bone breaking. From inside the wood, a raspy voice spoke in an ancient tongue. "We have been waiting." The legs of the chair appeared to stretch, reaching deep into the shadows until they vanished into the floorboards. Ethan's scream was choked off, a sound pulled into the darkness as the cushion of the chair collapsed like a lung expelling its final breath. The recording was then subjected to analysis. The hums were of a frequency which certain neurologists contend can break down the blood-brain barrier, permitting external stimuli to penetrate perception. The thin silhouettes recorded on the disposable film, when processed, were seen as faint impressions, such as a fingerprint left on the camera sensor, a ghostly trace of whatever had been resting there. When the university board finally directed the removal of the chair, a maintenance team came with a crowbar and a pair of gloves. They moved in, but the surface of the chair became warm, like a glowing ember. When they attempted to pick it up, the backrest recoiled, shattering the crowbar into two pieces. One of the men cursed, retreating, his eyes wide with fear. The temperature in the room plummeted, breath misting. Out of the darkness on the other side of the doorway came a low, sweet lullaby, a song that sounded like one everyone's ears in the building knew, but no one could remember to have heard. The employees ran for it, the door clanging behind them as though it had a mind of its own. The chair was never seen or heard of again. It disappeared as quickly as it came, leaving but a faint burn mark on the floor and the lingering scent of old iron and pine. The dorm was shut down for a semester, then reopened after a good cleaning. The lounge was painted, the chairs replaced, the windows reinforced, but the evening whispers continued, the same childlike laugh ringing out through the ductwork, and every now and then a student would catch a glimpse of a brief flash of teal in the reflection of the hallway, a sign that some things do not belong.